present For the Record.
The stage is set for the November elections. Good morning. I'm Eric Franke. Welcome to For the Record. Voters in last Tuesday's primary set the slate of candidates for what should be a rough and tumble race to the finish line for Wisconsin governor and a seat in the United States Senate. For what we should expect in the next 3 months, we turn to two of our favorite analysts back together again. Matt Rothschild, the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. He's the former editor and publisher of the Progressive magazine, and Brandon Scholz, the president and CEO of the Wisconsin Grocers Association, former Wisconsin Republican strategist. Gentlemen, I missed you on primary night. Well, it's good to see you again.
It's been a long time.
Good to have you back. So let's start with Tuesday night. And we look back at, and Brandon, we'll start with you. Biggest winners and biggest losers, or loser, singular, from Tuesday night.
Well, whoever has a W after their name answers that pretty quickly. But I think you have to look at who the candidates might have wanted to run against to figure out the winner. So for the U.S. Senate race, Ron Johnson, I think for all intents and purposes, has a good contrast to Mandela Barnes. So that's kind of where both sides want to go. And the governor's race, you could argue which one of the Republicans would have been a more difficult challenge for Governor Evers. You know, Clayfish had one set of contrasts, but Tim Michels brings a different set. So, you know, Tim Michels won a hard-fought primary, and he's ready to go. So you got four candidates. Great contrast between the two, and each of the parties all teed up for November.
You know, Rebecca Clayfish was the biggest loser. She was working real hard for this for several years now. It looked like she had the inside lane, and then at the very last minute, Michels took it away from her with the help of Donald Trump. And now Michels has got to run in a general election with Trump tied around his neck, and that's going to weigh him down a little bit. As far as biggest winners, obviously it was Michels. Mandela Barnes, though. I mean, he didn't win on election night. He won it a week before.
Right.
All the Democratic leading candidates other than him dropped out. But, you know, it's a signal that Mandela Barnes and his campaign know what they're doing, and they have widespread appeal, and that's going to help Mandela Barnes.
Well, let's focus a little bit more on this Michels-Evers matchup and how these two kind of contrast and what kind of matchup we can expect. Brandon, what do you think when you see Tim Michels, Roger Roth joining him as well? What do you think of this ticket and how they, you know, obviously the former president is behind him. How will this go for him the next, 12 weeks?
You know, I think you're going to see a great contrast between somebody who believes in government and government programs, Governor Evers. That's been his career in DPI and now as governor, versus Tim Michels, who is not a pro-government guy, who's going to look to make things and make changes in government. He's going to bring business experience to it. He's going to take a different approach to government. And if you look at the landscape of what's happened politically, up and down the ballot, and there's some talk of transformational politics and all those things starting to happen, it's also happening across the country. This will be a real contrast between those two candidates. As you said in the intro, it's going to be a rough and tumble campaign. Everybody thinks this is going to be cream puffs at the state fair. That's just not going to be the case. We're looking at more than $700 million going to be spent on these top of the ticket races. There will be lots of activity. Governor's already gone after Michels. I mean, they were ready to go. Whoever won, they were going to go after him. That's a signal that this isn't going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a tough campaign. Michels is going to go after Evers' role in terms of how he's managed the state, the recession that the country's going to be in, the economy we're going to have, and whether or not the governor has addressed those things like workforce, you know, prices in the grocery store, those sorts of stuff. They'll go after Tim Michels for maybe not having experience that they think is going to be important. They'll certainly go after him on the Trump factor, but I don't know how much that's going to play.
Matt, was this a better matchup? You know, we talked about getting the right matchups. It's like an NCAA tournament bracket. Does Michels matchup, is that a better matchup for the governor than
I think
Clayfish?
the Evers people were happy that they're facing Michels instead of Clayfish. And, you know, people don't know who Tim Michels is. If they knew that he, you know, supported this decision by the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, if they knew that he actually doesn't believe in abortion, even in cases of rape and incest, I don't think a majority of Wisconsinites are going to like that. That's not where they are on that issue. He also, like Trump, has been spewing this nonsense about electoral fraud and things like that. That's not where a lot of Wisconsinites are. He wants to destroy the Wisconsin Elections Commission. You know, I think he's also not really that much of a Wisconsinite these days. He got a $17 million mansion in Connecticut, a place in New York. I mean, he's not an average guy. And people, in contrast, they see Tony Evers. They know Tony Evers. He's still that geeky science teacher you had in high school, or that friendly principal you had. And I think people are comfortable with Tony Evers, and they admire some of the stuff he's done. He's helped with public education. We're number 8 in the country in schools now, whereas we were 18 before. His calm demeanor, I think, is going to help a lot, too.
Brandon, you know the voice of the conservative party, the Republicans in this state over the last several decades. Where are they right now? I mean, it seems like there's two paths here, right? There's the Walker, Pence, Clayfish, that now maybe in the complete rearview mirror. And then you have maybe the Trump, Michaels side. What is everybody thinking right now when you look at, former Governor Walker? He's still on Twitter defending the former president, of course, because the president has such a powerful reach. But where are those old conservative voices in the state right now when they look at the Trump-Michaels ticket, or the Michaels ticket with Trump support?
It's an interesting look, because I think you can break that ticket down, and eventually when they're elected, into two sectors. You can have the legislature, which is going to be a conservative type legislature. We've seen that over the last couple of sessions. And that's where things are going to come from, versus the direction of the state, the management of the state as governor, whether it's Tim Michaels or it's Tony Evers. You're going to see that. So while you have top of the ticket candidates talking in kind of bigger, loftier things of, where they come down philosophically, what they're going to do with government, the business of the government is in the legislature. So you have to look at the conservatives in the legislature and where they've been. I think they're more paced. I think they're less of a knee-jerk reaction. Some of the playbook items that Matt talked about that the governor will use against Tim Michaels, those are there. And those are kind of some national issues. I mean, that's a nationalized campaign to talk about the things that people that are going to run government as governors, whether they're too conservative, whether they are pro-Trump, whatever. But you have to look at where the business of the people are going to be done, and it's in the legislature. It's clearly a more conservative legislature than we've had, but they're not new to the game. So you have to kind of look to see how those two are going to get along.
Is there enough in the middle, kind of in this state? I mean, Tim Michaels got to tap dance a little bit here to reach those the Trump base, but also those conservative voters out there who maybe aren't still so sold on the former president and his viewpoints.
I think you want to look at Wisconsin as a 50-50 state. We're divided 50-50 right down the middle. There's a Democrat, there's a Republican, and in this election, you're not going to see Republicans go vote for Democrats and Democrats vote for Republicans. You're also not going to see the kind of middle that we've had in elections past, where you can move a couple of percentage points of people to your side or the other. This is really, ironically, going back to the basics of campaigns, of identifying and turning out your voters. Granted, campaigns are so more sophisticated than they are today than what they used to be. But it's still the fundamentals, and that's what's going to turn it. So that middle that you're looking for is even smaller than what it used to be.
And 20,000 votes decided the president in this state.
Yeah, I mean, turnout is going to be big, and it was big in the primary. We had 26% turnout. That doesn't sound like a lot, but for a primary like this, it was the highest level of turnout we've had in something like 40 years. So I think that's a good sign. The more people vote, the better.
Yeah, well, Matt, the governor the other day, the first day after the election, Wednesday, he talked to the media, and he was making a campaign stop, and he said, Donald Trump isn't on the ticket, it's me and Tim Michaels. Is that the right approach? I mean, maybe he does a better job if he says, yeah, I am running against Trump. What do you think?
Well, if I was Governor Evers, I would be bringing up Trump a lot, because I think a majority of Wisconsinites don't like Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is very dangerous to our country, and to the extent that Tim Michaels is tying himself to Trump, as he did during the primary, I think that's a disadvantage for Michaels, so I think Evers should make hay on that.
Brandon, want to add to that at all?
Well, it's interesting. You're going to have Governor Evers tying Donald Trump to Tim Michaels. And Tim Michaels is going to tie Joe Biden to Tony Evers. And so you're going to have the leaders of both parties nationally brought into this race. But I think people are smart enough to say, yeah, okay, I get the president, Joe Biden, I get Donald Trump, but I'm going to look at Tim Michaels, what he brings. He's the new guy on the block. And as you said, he's going to have to talk about what he wants to do in the state, what his ideas or plans are. He's out of the primary. We're going to get down to some specifics. He has a chance to bring that to people. People know Governor Evers. They know what he did as his 4 years as governor. So you've got that contrast. Biden and Trump are out there, but I don't think they make the decision for people at the end of the day.
Well, it's going to be interesting, the governor's race. We're going to touch more on that, I'm sure, over the course of the next 12 weeks. When we come back, we'll touch on the race for the United States Senate. Mandela Barnes, the lieutenant governor, against incumbent Senator Ron Johnson. When For the Record continues.